Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And our guest today is Jason Jones. He's executive in residence at Rackspace Technology, and Jack Crowley. He's senior director and general manager of healthcare private cloud at Rackspace Technology. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here today.
Yes, welcome and thank you for having us. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited to nerd out with you guys on the important tech nerdy topics that are essential to happiness, it seems like these days. Uptime, resiliency, some important topics. But before we go there, Jason, you want to kick us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and Rackspace.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jason Jones, I've been at Rackspace April of 23. So, headed into my 18 months here. Super exciting to come over to Rackspace as the largest third-party hosting provider of Epic globally is really the reason why all of us are here today. Jack and myself. Rackspace uniquely positioned. 25 years of hosting history. And based on that 25 years of history and developing OpenStack for NASA, 6,000 plus Rackers globally. Rackers is what we call employees at Rackspace here. And now, solidifying and moving into the Epic vertical, really understanding Epic vertical practice, or not Epic, the healthcare vertical practice, and bringing on subject matter experts from the healthcare ecosystem to really deliver a managed service capability. And so Rackspace is just, this venture that we're on and the trajectory that we're headed into healthcare is just staggering at the speed and pace at which we're achieving that.
Thanks, Jason. Glad to have you here. Jack, how about yourself?
Yeah, so again, thanks for having me. I am the general manager of our healthcare private cloud IBU at Rackspace. So I have responsibility for project management, customer success, the operations teams, the Epic ODBAs, ECSAs, et cetera. A little bit, about me. I come from EMC originally, the storage world. I was a storage engineer and architect for EMC for many years in their what they called IMS, which was Infrastructure Managed Services division. Spent a lot of time on very large enterprise accounts in those roles. EMC acquired VirtuStream in 2015. I moved over there. Finance background by trade, like everyone else. My college degree didn't mean very much. My university degree, so I swiveled into storage. But I got kind of back into business operations, and VirtuStream came from SAP hosting, and then they decided, Epic was a similar application in terms of requirements from a infrastructure perspective, how it has to be supported, et cetera. So they grew this healthcare hosting business, which was later moved to Rackspace because it was strategically, I think, positioned better in Rackspace than in Dell's suite of business, because Dell doesn't generally enter the hosting fray. So here I am years later, not a tenured healthcare leader, becoming one at this point. I think 4 years in this position and learning a lot. Had to learn some things the hard way, but it's all good.
That's awesome. So Jack, talk to us about, what are you seeing and what is Rackspace seeing in the healthcare market?
That's the question. That's the question. I guess one thing I'd say that it comes to immediate mind, we've seen in the last 2 months, significant inbound questions around architecting solutions against ransomware attacks, right? Like how can we recover quicker from an event like what happened at Ascension? It's very complex, right? Like it's very, very complex to think through that. There's a lot that goes into it. What I would say is, Rackspace does have just this very strong portfolio of, different infrastructure products that I think we can tool to meet, a set of requirements that healthcare CIOs, CTOs, and leaders are looking for. But I'd love to hear what Jason says, but that's been the thing I think the last couple months that we have received a lot of questions on how can we architect a DR not to solve for a hurricane or for a tornado. How can we architect it to solve for a ransomware attack and probably to some degree an inevitable ransomware attack, right? You will be attacked, hopefully not compromised, but you probably will be attacked or attempted to.
Yeah, they're definitely attacked. And I think most CIOs are saying that they're going to be compromised too. And the question is, how quickly are they going to get back? It feels like that trend is happening. Jason, what would you add? And talk to us about that shift from DR being resiliency versus kind of multiple forms of disaster recovery.
Yeah, when I think about it, we've gone through a lot of M&A in healthcare, right? You've seen a lot of this, and in that M&A process and in that supply chain process of the M&A, the spider effects of all of those fingers are essentially out of control, right? And so ransomware is, who am I doing business with? What are they doing? How are those systems secure? What systems do I have in that M&A process? Right? So really, DR is not a solution, right? Disaster recovery, we have always historically thought of some IT event and we have to recover from that. Really, truly, it needs to be business continuity, right? We really need to think in the terms of business continuity and how do we deliver those critical care systems in that continuity plan, right? And so planning for that. So when you think in that entire continuum, it's a really, really complex. It's not just a SKU based, hey, this will solve your problems.
Yep.
It's identifying all the systems, all of the intricate pieces of it. Tier 0, DNS and Active Directory, all the way through at the level of clinical support, right? And so it becomes a giant hairy mess, which is great because that's what we can help you unravel, right? So that's I add that to Jack's question, or to Jack's answer.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting when you look at it. You can't just drive up to your fast food joint and order 2 disaster recoveries, and it is about the people you have involved, the process you're going to use, and how you're going to recover. How are you monitoring it as well? So it's a much larger discussion.
And I think
Go ahead, Jack.
what I'm sorry for interrupting it, because I meant to say this earlier. The real interesting thing too is in the, like, I guess in my experience, right, in our world, not just healthcare IT, but just IT in general, we tend to forget, or not forget, but maybe not appreciate the soft side of responding to a ransomware attack. What I mean by that is, right, like the people and process side of it, right? Like, hey, something happens, we have to declare this. Right. One prospective client that I talked with, like, I was really impressed. They're really going through, like a work stream based approach, not just the technology, but what are we going to do with the technology, but then also have all of this governance and business process in place. So when we declare, the ultimate thing is that a nurse can get back as quickly as possible. If they're not ready, then it doesn't really matter if the technology is ready. So that's the other thing I think that's been really interesting in the last couple of months is the leaders sharing how complex this is to solve, not just from the technology perspective, but like people, process, and place, right? Really
Yeah.
interesting.
Not to mention prioritizing who needs to come up first in
Exactly.
many cases.
Yep.
So I think that's a challenge.
Yep.
Let's dive into some of the Epic hosting that you talked about. Jason, maybe you could start. When did, Rackspace get into the Epic EHR hosting, and, talk about that journey of getting today where, as you mentioned, you're the largest Epic third-party hosting provider. Talk to us about that journey.
Yeah, so Jack touched on it a little bit about the virtue stream aspect. So Dell had made a decision that they were going to do something with virtue stream, and it wasn't going to stay on board. And in that era, part of it was, okay, well, where does this land? Where does it make sense? Who's committed to this vertical? Who, from a board level all the way down to execution, where is the right place, right? And I can speak firsthand on that, as I was at Dell during some of that journey, and had the opportunity to come to Rackspace and help plug those pieces of the tools in as they came over. So it's been an exciting journey of watching Dell. Essentially, it's not in their core business portfolio, which is great, which is fine. But then finding an organization, like I said, the senior executive leadership all the way through the board is committed to the long-term viability of this business and maintaining it and growing it, not only in the Epic space, but really truly becoming a global multi-hybrid cloud provider of healthcare capability, right? And so it's been an exciting journey of the really getting focused. We had that conceptually about 2 years ago of, okay, healthcare is going to be a vertical. And then as the virtue stream pieces and the, we had to fight for every one of those Epic installations that we have today, and bringing over, the team that supports that and all the certifications really cemented that forward, right? And so today, like you mentioned, 75,000 concurrent connections supported from the Epic ecosystem, large customers to, smaller customers, payer platform from the, Epic's payer platform for the payers that are out there, as well as the providers, small home-based care provider. So really, it's interesting because we do kind of cover the gamut of what Epic delivers in capability, from small and large, from payer to provider. So it's been a super interesting journey to watch. But alongside that, as we kind of talked a little bit around the M&A, and okay, well, how do I deliver that? How do I deliver this capability faster and better? Bridging out that data center consolidation, IT stabilization, and other projects, we've been able to continuously grow that Epic ecosystem of apps in our hosting environment, which has created tremendous amounts of value for all of our clients.
Let's talk about that more, and maybe Jack, you could chime in. How do you approach kind of that full Epic ecosystem of apps and hosting them? I think some people, that don't understand don't realize that it's not like you install Epic on one machine and you're done, right? Like there's a lot more involved. So give us a feel of, what Jason kind of alluded to, which there's an ecosystem of apps to make Epic work.
Yeah, so kind of adding to what Jason said, the move over here for me has been very interesting, right, to Rackspace from Dell EMC, because right, Rackspace is a hosting provider, and like I said, they have a suite of, we call them mainline products that are very strong, right? Various sizings and flavors of traditional VMware environments, SDDC sort of offers, and those core offerings in large part were already positioned to be great places for some of those non-Epic but critical application workloads to land, because those were already PCI compliant products, HITRUST compliant or HITRUST certified, so attested, whatever the word is. There's so many words. But right, like they were already well positioned. I think they needed, those products just needed a team around them that understood how those things intertwine and how to explain and evangelize to some degree why those are great products for non-Epic applications to sit on. So, we've already seen some success with that, and I actually think we're really well positioned to host more of them because of it. So
thinking about like my transition from where I was to where I am, and when I've watched the market of hosting providers for EMRs, they run to where they believe that the money's at, right? And we're going to do this and it's going to be great. The reality is the opportunities that are out there are not every health system, right? It's a small pool of opportunity. The reality from Rackspace, right? We've been a hosting provider for 25 years. We have this mainline product set, right? So that business is our core functionality. It's the Epic and the EMR focus that's new, right? So it's not like we had to build something and then build something around it and then build something around that. We're just taking our core capabilities, we're adding Epic into that as the hosting provider, and then to Jack's point, those subject matter experts that really understand the core business that we're attaching ourselves to is delivery of care. It's not really IT. We know how to do IT. They know how to do delivery of care. It's an easy marriage of the two.
Yeah. It's interesting the shift that happened. Everyone originally was like, no, Epic has to be on site. Now everyone's looking, Epic has to be in the cloud. When did that shift occur? Like what changed to make that shift possible? Maybe you could start, Jason.
Yeah, the cloud narrative, right? The cloud, and I'll refer to the hype cycle, right? I think we're a little bit, Michael Dell posted yesterday, 83% of CIOs say they're going to repatriate a cloud workload to private cloud infrastructure in the next 3 years. That's a staggering number if you think about it. And the reality is AI has become commonplace in the data center, right? And so this hype cycle of cloud, everybody was cloud. in the belief structure was it was going to be cheaper. It was going to be more elastic. I was going to be able to capitalize on, making IT better. The reality has kind of shed to light in the last couple of years is cloud's great, but it's not great for everything. It's built in a very different way, very different learning skills, right? So I think in the last 2 years, we've seen organizations talk about cloud. Yes, that's the future. And a lot of things just haven't panned out for, everything. There's certain things that are absolute great work, use case and capability. But delivering a workload of 5 nines of availability at an affordable price, that's where we start to look and say, wow, this might not be the right location for everything. And so you're seeing some of that shifting of, I'm not an IT professional. I want to deliver care at the end of the day. I want to partner with relationships that are IT professionals and help me understand what is cloud, right? Because that, I think, is another definition of the building blocks. We got to define cloud. Not all clouds are created equal. Everybody's got, great capabilities, but what do I actually need to align to my business problem and challenge? And that's where we have to go into. So I would say the hype cycle of the last 2 years of cloud is where we're at, and we're kind of on the backside of that. We're in the new AI hype cycle, but that's kind of shifting a little bit of, you're not late, especially in healthcare. Most of risk organizations in the world are healthcare. You're not late to the cloud, but let's define what the cloud actually means, right? And I think that has been defined by a few people and everybody just jumps on it. That's why when you hear from Rackspace, it's true hybrid multi-cloud. You're going to have workloads in a rack somewhere in a hospital. You're going to have a data center in the hospital. You're going to have a private cloud. You're going to have public cloud. You're going to have SaaS. How do we deliver that organizationally for for you to continue your business model, which is at the bedside?
I was going to say, you're highlighting what every CIO seems to be headed, which is, I don't want to be in the infrastructure business. I want to impact care. I want to impact the business. Jack, what were you going to add?
Yeah, as someone from right that came from the outside, that I haven't spent my entire career in healthcare IT. We had a interesting meeting with one of our customers about the difference in people that have sat in seats to see the effect of their job, or if they make a mistake in their job, bringing down clinical care, et cetera. I think if I think, like, to your original question, which I believe was, why the shift to cloud, right? And what happened. I think for the longest time, I would assume, not to say I know what CIOs are thinking, but I would assume that they were concerned about, right, the people that were managing these workloads truly understanding how critical they are, right, the uptime requirements, et cetera, because it's different, right? And I've seen people come from the outside now that I've been in and say, oh, it's just another application. What's an hour of downtime? Well, an hour of downtime can be pretty impactful. So I think it took a long time for healthcare leaders to start to trust, right, that there were people that would treat their systems the same way that their own team would treat those systems, and that they could extend their culture across an organization. That's something, right? So you're kind of looking back. I don't know if it was intentional or a happy mistake when VirtuStream hired their first couple employees, who the first, I think, healthcare employee 1 and 2 actually still work in my organization. They're long, 7-8 years at this point. And they came from, right, like a hospital. They worked in the hospital. They worked right alongside. And everyone that we've hired since then has been someone that was tenured in a care provider situation. So we don't, like, the culture we have on the team is one that understands very much, I think, what the original hesitancy was to go to the cloud. And now you're starting to see some of those same people that probably built great solutions years ago on-prem are now working elsewhere and capable of doing it the same way, and most importantly, treating it the way that they would have treated it had they been employed at those hospitals or care providers.
Yeah,
So.
that's awesome. So let's dive into some of the details. Like, what does it really take to host Epic effectively in the cloud? What are some of the differences between the approaches? Jack, you sound like you're the more tech guy, so maybe you could.
That's such that question. What does it take? Magic and lots of coffee for
A
late
lot
night.
of experience and
No, no.
heartache and scars.
What it takes, I think, is one, dedication, right? Like, not to go peer leadery, but I mean, like leadershipy. I don't know what the word is, but like, you have to be dedicated to what you're doing and understanding the impact of what we're doing, and the impact if, we commit to a 5-month timeline for a project. If a hospital can't launch that project on that timeline, there's impacts to their staffing and the things they've planned for and cost and all these things. So I think dedication is a huge part, right? You have to be willing to sign up to work some tough hours at times and solve complex problems. From a technology perspective, I go like the other way. I'm kind of like, it's all compute and storage and network at the end of the day. I don't care if it's public cloud or private. You architect things to be secure, right? There's a reason we follow compliance frameworks and all those things. The last thing I'll say, and then I'm sure Jason will have some input, it would be, I think the other thing is to try to drive as much standardization into the way you do things operationally is very important, right? So I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we have a lot of SOPs, right? Very, very task driven, pushing things through appropriate change protocol, these sorts of things, right? Like, these are the things that keep environments stable. And I would say stability is at the top of the top of the list in terms of importance for hosting EHR, right? It has to be a stable platform, highly available, and performant. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we saw that with CrowdStrike, that the wrong
uh,
processes for verifying updates, et cetera, can have a big impact. Jason,
yeah,
what else would you add as far as what it takes to kind of host Epic effectively in the cloud?
Yeah, I would really echo what Jack said, right? I mean, a majority of us, not Jack, not included, have come from that delivery setting, right? And so being on the go-to-market team, right, really aligning your heart and your mind to the mission, right? And that's the mission of delivering better care. And each organization has their own unique spin and their own unique wording, to differentiate themselves in their market. But every one of them got involved because they absolutely care, right? They want to change the lives of many, and as a leader, to Jack's point, technology with enough money and enough time and technology, we can send people to the moon, right? Which is awesome. The reality though is being aligned, your heart and your mind to the mission,
Yeah.
because then you care. You get in the trenches, you run to the fire and not from the fire, right? And that, which is great that Jack's team, every one of them, they come from that delivery setting, right? And average tenure of 15 years in care delivery. It's amazing to see when you're bringing individuals that have stood at parade rest with the CMIO, walking through the halls of an organization and hearing the feedback from clinicians. Some of the most moving conversations I've had were after change management happened, things weren't notified, and nurses and doctors are screaming at you, and all you can say is, wow, I didn't know, right? And so that's very impactful, right, to their day in and day out, where they're already tasked and overburdened with, just emotion, right? We've all been in the care setting, and it's unbelievable the things they have to deal with. We don't need to put one more thing on their plate, right? So make the technology work, make it easy, and help them with their day to day.
Absolutely.
one other thing too, just kind of thinking about the original question is, to me, like, a lot of traditional services organizations try to shield the technology people from customer leadership, right? There's a layer of like, hey, we're not going to allow this technical person to go interface with customer executives. And most of the time there's some good reasons, or there could be good reasons why, for both sides, quite frankly, right? Because there could just be communication challenges because this person's heads down and CIO is thinking about this problem. But one thing that that we do that's very different is, since we have such a tenured team, and in terms of running Epic in the cloud, I think is exposing and allowing those people to work alongside, right, customers and feel very much like an extension of their team, instead of traditional, like, no, these are extremely hard rules, we only do a change this time, or we will only do this under the contract, trying to nickel and dime customers, these sorts of things. That's when things kind of get tenuous, and you just, like, to be frank, we don't have time for that, because we might need to get an update in tonight or whatever. So taking that approach of, I think, the team being integrated with the customers delivery team, IT delivery team is incredibly important, right, in making the whole thing work. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jason, Jack, this was a lot of fun and really interesting to hear the challenges associated with hosting in the cloud and how you're addressing those challenges for healthcare organizations. I think there's a lot more we could talk about. We didn't even get to the AI stuff you're working on. We'll have to have you back again another time to talk more about those things, but appreciate you taking time to share your insights and perspectives. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting application. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.